It is 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, and we do have a quorum with all board members present. To begin the meeting, we'll observe a moment of silence as you see fit. Thank you. Now, if you'd join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, recognitions and awards.
Did I have any this evening, Mr. President?
All right. Introductions?
We do have some introductions for you, for the board this evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Tonight, I'd like to introduce you to our newest administrative staff. First, we have Cara Becerra and her husband, Joseph, and their children, Corey and Lola, if you guys would stand. Cara is a May 2010 graduate of the University of Houston with a bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies. In 2014, she received a master's in educational leadership from the University of Houston, Victoria. She has 7 years of education experience, including 5 years of teaching experience, 1 year as a reading facilitator, and 1 year as a special education instructional facilitator here at Lamar. She is the new assistant principal at Wertheimer Middle School. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to introduce you to the new assistant principal at Travis Elementary, Lisa Enriquez, and she is joined tonight by her husband, Jonathan. Lisa is a May 2008 graduate of the University of Texas at San Antonio with a bachelor's degree in political science. In 2015, she received her master's in educational leadership from the University of Houston, Victoria. She has 9 years of education experience, including 7 years of teaching, 1 year as a bilingual lead teacher, and 1 year as a teacher development coordinator. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce you to Devin Gabbard. He is an August 96 graduate of Texas Women's University with a bachelor's degree in kinesiology. In 2002, he received a master's degree in exercise physiology from Texas Women's University. He has 19 years of experience as a teacher, coach, collegiate head coach, district assistant athletic director, and district athletic director. He is serving as the new assistant athletic director for Lamar. Congratulations. Next, I would like to introduce you to the new principal of Travis Elementary, Jareen Jordan. She's a May 2002 graduate of the University of Texas with a bachelor's degree in government. In 2008, she received her master's in administration and supervision from the University of Houston. She has 15 years of education experience, including 6 years of teaching, 5 years as an instructional coordinator, and 4 years as an assistant principal. Welcome aboard.
Be careful.
I don't get to do that often. I hear the whoops all the time. I take one and get it.
The new principal at George Junior High is Stephen Judice. Stephen is a May 2005 graduate of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette with a bachelor's degree in secondary education. In 2010, he received his master's in educational leadership from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. He has 12 years of education experience, including 7 years of teaching, 3 years as an assistant principal, and 2 years as a principal. Congratulations. And our last introduction for the evening is Jeremy Sanders. Jeremy is the new assistant principal at George Junior High. He's a December 2000 graduate of Texas A&M University Commerce with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. In 2010, he received a master's in educational administration from Prairie View A&M University. He has 15 years of education experience, including 6 years of teaching, 6 years as an instructional specialist, and 3 years as an assistant principal. Congratulations.
That's all the introductions. This time we'll move to the audience to patrons.
We are now at the portion of the meeting when the board allots time to hear persons who desire to make comments to the board. Persons who wish to speak to the board must sign up to do so as they arrive, and they must indicate the topic about which they wish to speak. No presentation shall exceed 5 minutes. Delegations of more than 5 persons shall appoint 1 person to present their views. The board will hear the concerns, but the board cannot deliberate, discuss, or make a decision on any subject that is not posted on the agenda. Persons who speak to the board cannot complain about a district officer or employee in open session. Such concerns are heard in closed session after proper posting of the agenda item has occurred. As you come forward, please state your name and your address. Our first speaker is David Vershek.
Good evening. Thanks again to Dr. Randall and the board for letting us make our presentation on our request for a local option exemption. I don't have a whole lot of new information, but I know that you do have in the packet that we gave you, and I'm sure you've received it from the tax office, that the LCISD preliminary freeze adjusted taxable value, that's the value with all of the deductions and adjustments and everything taken out. For LCISD, it's gone from $13.8 billion in 2016 to $14.4 billion for 2017. So that's a $600 million increase. That's about a 5.23% increase in taxable value, and it should provide about 201 or 202 million tax revenue for the district. The numbers that we presented in the last couple of meetings have not changed. We're still requesting that local option request of $10,000. As of 1/1/2017, I got this data from Patsy Schultz, the tax assessor collector, your tax assessor collector. As we've said, there's about 9,200 seniors, the over 65 and disabled homeowners in LCISD. We're not asking the board to give the seniors anything. We're asking the LCIS board to take fewer tax dollars from those vulnerable senior citizens. We continue to pay taxes. We're going to continue to pay taxes. 1.28 million is the amount that exemption would generate. It's just about 0.6% of your projected 2017 receipts, and it would reduce your receipts from about 201 or 22 to 200 even, $200 million even. The 9,200 seniors in LCISD, I pulled some sample numbers and I extrapolated from 10 that I grabbed at random to 9,200. Those 9,200 seniors are going to pay about $21.4 million in 2017 if you don't grant us the exemption. But think about it. If you grant the exemption, we will still pay, all of us, the seniors, $20.2 million. If you approve their request, what we're going to pay is going to go from $21 million to $20 million, approximately. We believe the district can afford this. The administration has said if the board approves the exemption, it will not reduce the tax for seniors because they intend to take it off of the market and appraised value as opposed to the cap value. And my opinion is the board should ask the administration this question. Why does the property tax code provide the option for a taxing unit to offer an exemption to homeowners that are over 65 or disabled if it will not reduce the taxes? Why is that in the tax code? It makes no sense. So I think that you need to reread the tax code and figure that out. And I know it's on the agenda. We'll be available to answer any questions you may have at that point in the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ted Boyd.
Good evening. Ted McCoy. I live at Del Webb Sweetgrass. Thank you for listening to me tonight. I appreciate that. Dave's provided you on a couple of different occasions with the financial information that you need to make a financial decision in the matter that we've asked you to consider. Okay? I've tried to kind of put a little more personal touch on what we're asking of you. And what I say tonight is not out of disrespect to anybody, but to give you maybe a little bit of food for thought, okay? And I would ask you to consider this. What's more likely, the district adding millions of dollars to collect, or millions of dollars collected off the backs of seniors from their pensions and Social Security to add either to the reserve or to build opulent buildings that are not necessary to teach students in such a manner, or seniors losing their homes because the tax burden is taxing them out of their homes? Or is it more likely that the district is planning to spend more money to place artificial grass on a practice football field that is not necessary, or seniors making a choice to eat or pay their taxes so they don't lose their homes? If you vote no on this issue, then I believe you're saying that that artificial grass is more important than the LSISD senior community that financially supports you. The amount we're asking for is probably akin to 2 weeks to a month's worth of groceries for a senior or for a couple. Okay? At the last meeting, we asked you to consider this point. At what point is it time for the district to start considering the ability of taxpayers to pay versus the many wants and not needs of the district administrators? Seniors are financially some of the most vulnerable people in our community. With inflation, prices for health care and basic needs rising, coupled with taxes eating at their fixed incomes, there is no offer for relief from these demands. If you do not consider this proposal now, when, if ever, will you? We are not being asked, we are being asked to literally live with less. Why can't you let us keep what we have earned? As a final note, I ask you to consider, seniors today provide needed volunteer support to the district. In fact, if the hours we donate to the district were valued, I believe they'd be well in excess of $2 to $3 million to the district. Couple that with some of the facilities improvements that we've made through groups that we work within, and that would again further exceed what we're asking for tonight. We are a vital part of this district. We make a significant contribution, and we believe that we're worth the consideration. To be blunt, when you balance your budget, we respectfully ask you, or we respectfully say, we're worth more than a few blades of plastic grass, and we ask you to consider that when you do your final budget proposals and you consider our request here tonight. Thank you.
All right. Since this is an active agenda item, we will ask the board if they have any questions of folks from Del Webb.
Well, I have a question. One of the gentlemen mentioned that this was essentially going to tax some taxpayers out of their home. Now, over the months that we've been discussing this, I've gotten varying different information. Some of the 9,300 that you proposed are not going to be exempt at all. Others may be exempt of only $50. But if I take the number of 1.28 million and I take that and I divide it by 9,300 people that you are saying are over 65, that only is $137 per person.
Well, that's the tax rate. That's $1.39.005. So with some rounding and things like that, that's where that is.
But that's $137 per person per year. So I'm wondering where are you getting your information that this is taxing people out of their homes?
Well, I have not said that. The issue is that people that buy homes or people that have homes that are not 65 or over and disabled, the tax rates are continuing to go up in other places, and the appraisals are going up in Fort Bend County and in Lamar CISD. So as somebody hits 55 and they have a house that's 200,000, by the time they get to 65, that house could be 350,000. They're locked in at 350,000 at $1.39, minus the 25,000 homestead exemption and the 10,000. That's a big shock to have a $350,000 house and be frozen. And what you get out of that is 25 and 10. And we're not asking for much. We're asking for 25 and 10 and 10. We're just asking for a little bit. And that's that 1.39 or however you want to call that, $101.39 tax rate.
Well, I guess I'm still confused on the numbers. If some of the 9,300 people are not going to be exempt at all because they're already maxed out, and others are maybe be exempt at $50 per year, but the max anybody, even if everybody was exempt, is still $137 per year.
Right.
I feel like the numbers that we're getting don't reflect what it is that you're stating, because $128 million literally means for the district about 20 teachers, 20 employees for us. So
1.28 million.
1.28, I'm sorry, yes, 1.28 million means about 20 teachers' salaries for us. And when I'm looking, because certainly my first concern would be that I don't want to tax anybody out of their home. But at max, somebody might get a savings of $137. I can't imagine that's taxing anybody out of their home.
Well, there's a lot of other taxes that are going up, so it goes in conjunction. They all go in lockstep, because when Fort Bend CAD raises the appraised value.
But there's nothing we can do about the Fort Bend
Oh,
CAD and
I
what they're doing,
understand.
and that's aside from what
But-
we would be issuing here.
Respectfully, what I would say is, if you look at the over 65s and disabled that have been capped, which is what we're talking about, and you give an additional 10,000 local option exemption, then every one of those people is going to qualify for that additional $10,000, just as the people that get the local, the mandated 10,000 over 65 and disabled now. So I believe that all 9,200 or 10,000 or whatever that number happens to be will all get that $139 a year savings. Now, we made a proposal like this to the Lid 6 board and a couple of years ago, and the directors on the board actually said, well, that's only going to be worth $50 a year for you. What is that? Well, to somebody that's on fixed income and Social Security hasn't gone up at all. You know, they raise their Social Security and then they raise the Medicare. So, you know, we don't get it. We don't get a raise there. And that's what happens to those people. And there are some people that are in very desperate straits. And so he wasn't mocking us when he said it's only $50. We went to the Lid 6 this year and asked for a $20,000 over 65 homestead exemption, and they granted it, which is worth $100 per home.
But I think
So-
fairly we could say, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but fairly we could say that the people that we're talking about possibly taxing out of their homes for $137 a year aren't paying mud taxes, correct?
They're probably, well, I can't say that. There's people in the city of Rosenberg, I don't know all the cities inside of the LCISD. So all of them are not in MUD. Some of them are in Richmond, some of them are in Rosenberg. So MUDs and LIDs are a different issue, but everybody has something. There's a city tax in Rosenberg, there's a city tax in Richmond.
Right.
And
And
if
I
they don't
understand.
have over 65 exemptions or some other mechanism to lower it for the seniors, then those seniors will continue to pay more.
Well, I think that the issue, the point I'm trying to make is that our district, and I feel like our board is pretty fiscally responsible. We try to maximize every dollar that we have. Taking $1.28 million from the teachers, basically that's where it's going to come from. It's going to come from our teachers, our staff.
We will, you will maintain silence, or we will cut off the conversation.
Again, in my opinion, $137 per person max, if everybody got it, and we know not everybody will. Cumulatively, the district has a lot more to lose than $137.
Well, okay, and one last comment respectfully then. If you run the numbers, and we don't know exactly because there's 9,200 people with 9,200 different appraised values or whatever, but if you pick some average values, we are going to contribute $21 million, the 9,200 seniors in LCISD. And if you take $1 million away, we're still going to contribute $20 million. And $20 million is still a significant number for those people that are on Social Security and on limited incomes. So that's...
I would just like to add to that, let's assume, if I follow your thought process, not everybody's going to get this. I think that just reinforces a little further the point that we're trying to make, and that is that it will be even less of a burden for the district to give this, okay, if everybody doesn't get that full amount. What are asked for of you is even less, okay? It's not more, it's not the same. It will be less than the numbers that Dave gave you. So we're giving you, let's say, a worst-case scenario, okay, with the numbers. So if we follow your thought, we will be actually impacting the budget even less. And then I would go back to what I said, my anchor to our whole conversation, and that is, you do have a choice, and it doesn't have to be about teachers. You can make a decision to do what we ask and to give us, let us keep that money, or you can go buy plastic grass and tell the consumers and the seniors in the community exactly how you feel about it. It comes down to something almost as simple as
We've heard that part of
that.
the argument. Are any more
Yeah.
questions from the board? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. This time we'll move to approval of minutes. Need a motion to approve the minutes of May 16, 2017, special meeting workshop.
Go ahead.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of May 16th.
Have a second to that? Any comments, questions about those minutes? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? There are none. Motion carries. We have a motion to approve the minutes for May 18, 2017, regular board meeting. Don't be bashful, Ms. Danziger.
I move that we
Dr.
the
Harrell.
May 18th regular board meeting.
Dr. Harrell, second. Any questions, comments, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Motion carries. Board member reports.
Mr. President, we had our facilities meeting today, and we had reports from Gilbane Construction and Banner Rice Gardner. The first was from Gilbane Construction. This is the end of their 2011 bond responsibility report. Ag Barn number 2. This is our newest agricultural facility. It is a 15,600 square foot location on 20-acre site on FM 359. The completion date is scheduled for Thursday. The closeout change order and final payment is expected to be on our August board agenda. The 11th month warranty walkthrough for Fulshire High School and Lehman Junior High School was conducted on June the 5th. This will conclude the Gilbane Construction 2011 bond responsibility. And I would personally like to acknowledge Mr. Ed Bailey with Gilbane Construction and to thank him for all of his services. My understanding is he has been here for 6 years out of the 12 years that Gilbane Construction had been here. So thank you. For the 2014 bond, the first item was the Bentley Elementary School. They are working very closely with the contractor to close out this project. The Lindsay Elementary School is nearing substantial completion. The fire marshal inspection was done today, and the building has been approved for occupancy. The furniture and equipment purchases are underway, and installation will be in July. The Carter Elementary School, which is located near George Ranch High School on A. Meyer Road, work is underway to prepare the site for importing the fill to raise the building pad. Under the Support Services Center, the contractor has been authorized to proceed with the construction of the new maintenance and operations facility. Phase 1 is scheduled to be complete in February of 2018. The contractor has been authorized to proceed with the construction of the baseball and softball complex at Terry High School. The work is scheduled to be complete in January of 2018, prior to the start of the softball and baseball season. Under HVAC web-based controls, the contract has been awarded to replace the dial-up modems with web-based controls at 8 sites. The work will begin at Foster High School, Briscoe Junior High, and the Central Plant at Briscoe. The recommendation for the Natatorium Award for George Ranch High School, Foster High School, and Fulshire High School to Turner Construction Company is on the board agenda. The project is at budget. Under the band hall additions at Terry High School and Lamar Consolidated High School, the contractors have mobilized on both sites. Under Pink Elementary, Pink Elementary repairs, the vinyl wall covering has been removed and is being prepared for new wall covering. The doors and ceilings are going to be adjusted throughout the building. Chiller replacements at Seguin, Travis, and the Alternative Learning Center have been completed. The chillers at Wessendorf Middle School were replaced last week and they are operational. The chillers at Frost and Huggins are scheduled for replacement by the end of June of 2017. The documents for the Foster High School water plant upgrades have been prepared for submitting permit application for the new water well and the water storage tank. The construction documents for the district-wide site lighting are being finalized. Under the district-wide access controls, the plan is to provide card readers at 5 exterior doors for high schools and junior high schools, and at 3 exterior doors for the middle schools and elementary schools. On the board agenda tonight is a recommendation to use the cooperative purchasing agreements to secure the software and hardware installation. And that is the conclusion.
Thank you. Any other reports? Ms. Danziger?
Even though we didn't meet for technology, we did get a technology update. I just wanted to highlight a couple of areas. We do have 2 agenda items tonight. One is to approve a new server storage for the infrastructure upgrade, and that is to add more storage performance capacity to our server. We also have Promethean boards at Campbell, are the oldest and smallest in the districts and are failing, so we have an agenda item for replacing the interactive whiteboards at Campbell Elementary. And I just wanted to say a shout out, even though I had to go out of town, so I wasn't able to get by there. I did hear from several teachers at the Interact 2017. Over 135 teachers received 40 hours of technology training last week at Lehman, and I heard it went off beautifully. And congratulations for another successful year at Interact. And for my own self, we all, 7 of us did participate at the LCTA banquet celebration of Teacher of the Year, and it was a beautiful event, and I know we all were excited about sitting with many of the scholarship winners when we were at the dinner. And I've had many, many parents come and find me at the grocery store, online, calling me up of their graduates, and kudos to Dr. Randall and Mrs. Hack and all your people that got it together, because parents were very impressed with how we run our graduations. They said it was all about the kids, and you made it meaningful and special, and I know that's hard to do when you're trying to get all 4 in 2 days. So congratulations on that. And that's my report.
Thank you. Dr. Harrell?
So we had a policy committee meeting today, and just a reminder to all the board members of the 2 reading policy. The policy changes were submitted in last month's board book. One thing to clarify, so that everything will be 2 readings except for the, there was an addition in added to this month's, and that is EIA, which is the EIA local, which is the which updates the grading timelines, some of the retesting requirements, and guidelines for retesting for major grades. So that will be voted on single reading, only this month's readings. Everything else will be 2 readings. And also just a reminder that CDC local on gifts and solicitations, the revised writing that was given to us outside of the board book. So we're actually second reading on the revised, not the way it is in the board book. And basically the only difference in that is it's that we give the superintendent to accept gifts instead of only $2,500 of unsolicited gifts on behalf of the district. We're raising that to $5,000. A couple other highlights. Basically, the policy manual update 107. Most of these dealing with gifts, fundraisings, expense reimbursement, compulsory attendance. A couple things of note are, let's see, we have now that we have a different appraisal system for teachers, we have reduced the amount of walkthroughs that they do on the year that they're being appraised. Kind of lighten the load on them a little bit for that. We have also added, a lot of these are just verbiage changes, cleaning up some of the previous policies. One is we've identified specifically that for-profit organizations can use school facilities. That's most of the highlights. Oh, and then we have a revised Student Welfare, Wellness, and Health Services Act. Basically, we have a Student Health Advisory Committee that keeps us abreast of those changes, and also a lot of this is these changes reflect the Healthy Hunger Free Act. And there also was updates made to the employee code of ethics as well.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Harrell.
Summary.
Anybody else?
A lot of policies.
I did attend the wrap-up session for Interact 2017, and that was really exciting. I walked around and looked at some of the projects that the teachers had, a couple of lesson plans there. I said, can I sign up for that class? They did use a lot of resources. I had one teacher tell me I was a little bit intimidated when I came over here to all these new resources I was going to have. She said, but by the end of the week, I was pretty comfortable with all of them. And also thought it was kind of interesting. I was standing down there, I go through and look at 2 or 3 of them, and then I get down there, check my phone, and I had 2 separate teachers come up and grab me and take me to over their displays. They wanted to show me what they were doing. So it was a great job. Technology, you did a fabulous job of putting that on. It was a great event, so appreciate it very much. They got a lot out of it, I can tell you. All right, Dr. Randall, anything from you? No reports? All right. This time we will establish our consent agenda. All right, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8.
I have a question.
All right, we'll pull A8, A9, A10, B1, B2.
I have a question.
All right, B2 will pull. B3,
I have a question on that one, please.
B4. I have a question on that one. I also have a question on B5 and on B6. B7, B8. B7, you okay? B8 we will pull.
Yes, please.
B9, B10A, B10B, B10C, B10D, B10E, B11, B12, B13.
Mr. President, can you go back to B10E? I have a question on that.
All right, we will back up and pull B10E. Okay, we got B13, B14, B15, B16, B17, B18, B19, B20, B21, B22,
Can we pull that one, please?
yes, C1, and C2. Okay, the items we have pulled for additional consideration are A8, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, B8, B10E, and B22. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
The second for that? Mr. Evenak, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, there are none. Thank you, that carries. I will read the donations before we get into the rest of the action items. Adolphus PTO donated $97,482 to expand the concrete slab and covering the entire slab on the playground at Adolphus Elementary School. Well done. Very well done. All right, this time we go back and consider item A8. Let's consider approval for district to apply for waiver for additional staff. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I make a motion that we approve the district consider approval for district to apply for a waiver for additional staff development days.
Dr. Harrell's a second to that? Ms. Kaminsky? All right, discussion?
I guess basically I just have a question. There's 176 days of student educational instruction. The 6 early releases and the staff development days, is that included in that 176 or is that in addition to?
Teachers usually have 185.
Mr. Moore does our waivers for staff development days, and so I'll let him cover some of the questions in regards to how the waivers are applied for and the impact on the staff development calendar. And then what we do with those days, I'll be glad to answer those questions.
Ms. Kaminsky, the half-days are already accounted for in the calendar, as well as these 2 staff development days. They're the January day and the February day that's marked for staff development in the calendar that you all approved earlier this year.
So that is the 176.
The 176 includes the half-days, and then there's 2 additional
There's 2 staff development included in
days.
that. Okay. Early release days, have y'all reconsidered as to when y'all use those particular days for students? I just hear a lot from families about why are we doing this like half a day before a holiday, or it's not convenient for them to necessarily take off.
Different parents have different reactions to it, and typically it's driven by either their work schedules. Some of them like them because they leave early for whatever vacation or activity they have planned for the weekend. The way they are used at the elementary level is to conduct parent conferences, and those have been very popular in terms of the feedback that we get at the elementary level. At the upper level, they're used for professional development, and that's when we have the opportunity to pull together particularly those teachers who may not get to collaborate during the school year, and there may only be 1 or 2 of them on a campus. So for example, we'll pull all of the advanced placement English teachers for professional development. They work on their class syllabus. They post their activities, their lesson plans in OneNote so that they all have the opportunity across the district to share them. And so that's just one example at the secondary level of how we use those days.
And I guess maybe I don't have the right to say, I just noticed it was on number 9, the senior day of letting the seniors not come to school in the morning due to the testing but show up in the afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
Curiosity, how many seniors actually do show up?
I'm pretty sure Ms. Hack makes sure that they show up.
Do they have a system of
yes.
an incentive to come back?
Yes, they do.
It's
called not taking it.
It definitely facilitates the end-of-course assessment, of which the seniors are not a part of, and yet the building has to maintain a certain level of decorum. Their classes are not moving through the hallways
Right.
during that assessment period, and we need additional teachers to do the monitoring, the appropriate monitoring of the assessment.
Same for the PSAT, which is in the fall.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none, motion carries. Item B2, I'd like to have a motion to approve the budget amendment request.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Roberts, second to that. Ms. Monsell? Comments, questions?
I do. Under special ed, department requesting a budget change to pay for the summer school extra duty pay, $100,000. Can I get a clarification?
It's for the summer school teachers. They were budgeted in Function 31 by mistake when they originally did the budget, so they're just moving it into a Function 11 for instructional purposes.
So initially, it was for the teacher.
It still is for the teachers, but they put it in the wrong code to begin with.
Okay, that's simple.
Just miscoding.
Okay.
Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none, motion carries. Item B3, need a motion to approve the purchase of concession food and supplies.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of concession food and supplies.
Danziger, a second.
A second.
Ms. Kaminsky, discussion?
I just had a concern of the, in the RFP process, were these the only vendors that responded?
Yes, these were the only vendors that responded, and of course, the third one, if you'll note, they only do food, no drinks. They were only offering popcorn. The point of all of this was to try to get to a wholesale price and not pay a retail price for the goods that we're selling in the concessions. Vistar is one of the largest wholesale concession companies in the Houston area. We did contact numerous companies, and they all kept pointing back to Vistar as the people they buy from.
Oh.
So even the companies that run our vending machines, Compass Canteen, they buy from them and recommended them for us to go to. So we're able to get pricing down, we're able to be competitive, and it will allow the athletics department to create some equitability with the menus and be a little more aggressive on the pricing.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions on item B3? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? There are none, motion carries. Thank you. Item
Yes.
B4, I need a motion to approve the operation service for district water and sewer treatment facilities.
I'll make a motion we consider approval of operation services for district water and sewer treatment facilities.
Dr. Harrell is a second to that.
I'll second it.
Stanziger. I had a question, a simple question. What's the cost of that?
We didn't include the cost.
Didn't include the cost. Well, I'm going to ask you the same
I'm
question
so sorry.
2 more times here in a minute. So.
We did not get to a bottom line cost, and we overlooked that. I apologize. I can send an addendum forward for your information to give you the exact price for the year for the contract.
Give me a ballpark number.
I honestly couldn't give you that off the top of my head. I apologize. I can get you that information, but I can't offer it today. I can head back to the office in a few minutes after I answer the other questions and bring it back to you if you want to move it to the end of the agenda.
Let's do that. I'd like to
Okay.
have that number. I'll move it down if you would get that. I've got a couple other costs here, so we will table that one for the moment.
Okay.
Item B5, approval of fire extinguisher, fire suppression system services and replacement equipment. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the fire extinguisher and fire suppression system services and replacement equipment.
All right, Ms. Danzer, second. Dr. Harrell. Question on that is also cost.
And I will bring you a fine.
Is that another one you're going to bring back?
I'm going to bring that back. I apologize for that. I know. We looked so thoroughly at these and completely forgot the price.
Okay, we'll hold B5 until we come back with that piece of information then. Okay, item B6, approval, could I get a motion to approve the interlocal agreement for the city of Rosenberg for police officers?
I'll make a motion to consider approval.
Ms. Kaminsky, is there a second? Ms. Bronsell? Question I have on that is, this one doesn't have cost in it either.
It's not finalized.
Yeah, first of all, Dr. Randall will still be negotiating this contract. However, the contract, the way we assess cost on that, we are reimbursing them for salaries, benefits, administrative fees, and all that. They provide us an estimate of that cost by giving us a spreadsheet with the officers' names, salaries, various information, as well as the courier service information. And the latest number we have is $1.2 million.
That's all I'm looking for, a ballpark. I don't need to know down to
that'll
the
change
nuts
if
and
they
bolts.
substitute officers during the year and all that, but that's the estimate we
Okay,
have right
I've got a question. How often are they on our campuses? You got 12 officers here, and they come out there to pick up the money and the receipts and stuff like that. How often are they on our campuses?
And
They're on
they're actually
campuses daily.
stationed on the secondary campuses. And then we have a rover that goes around and pick up the dollars. And then we also have some that are on call for going to elementary campuses if needed.
I just had never seen one on the campus. I've seen some of our other security people, but I had never, the many times I've never seen one of them. That's why I was curious. Yes.
I have a question. Did we increase that number of officers, or is it the same as it was last year?
This is the same number that we currently have, the 12, and in the language, we're exercising our right to increase or decrease based on a need. And that would, again, be negotiated by the superintendent and the chief of police.
Do we have any reason to believe that we would decrease or increase right now?
And there's no reason to believe that we're going to decrease.
More increase.
There may be, depending on circumstances and total coverage, they're always asking for and requesting additional officers, but we try to take a look at that and make sure that we provide what we can afford at the time.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
And maybe I just never noticed it. We pay for their vehicles.
Yes.
Correct? How often do we have to do a turnover on those vehicles?
Change out vehicles. Usually it's 3 to 4 years on a change out of a vehicle. It depends on the use, it depends on mileage, how well the vehicle's holding up. There's a lot of factors in there. But included with the purchase, we're also maintaining those vehicles as part of our normal white fleet. So they're coming through and they're getting regular oil changes, tire rotation. So they're being maintained and records are being kept on that. Some vehicles that we've had in service for up to 10 years, they're still good, viable vehicles, and there's no reason to replace them. But when we do have vehicles that go bad, we do have to turn them around, and it's been one maybe every couple of years.
Yeah, we recently, I remember we approved a couple new cars.
Tahoe.
In the past few months.
What about the equipment that they have to have on the inside? We
That
do
belongs to us.
We update everything that they need through the police department?
If you'll notice on the patrol vehicles, they actually say Lamar CISD. They belong to us. They are our vehicles.
I learned something today. Also, are these police officers on call with the police department itself when they're not working with us?
No, they are ours. If there's a major emergency of some sort, they may be pulled off. Just like if we have a major emergency, we can expand from 12 to however many officers Rosenberg PD can release to come and support us. And we even have additional officers around at the end of the school year that are Rosenberg PD. They just have them to go and patrol the area in addition to what our own officers have.
Thank you.
that helped, because I was getting concerned about it. As we're getting larger and Rosenberg is centered down here, how do we cover these remote areas so we make sure that we got somebody there in plenty of time in case we did have a real issue pop up on these campuses? All right. Thank you very much.
Don't we have something with the?
We also have county. We also have, for example, the schools in Richmond. We get support from the Richmond PD, but the rural areas is also with the county.
All right. Great. Any further questions on that one? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? There are none. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for that information. Item B8. I have a motion to approve the giving an additional local option exemption for taxpayers age 65, older, or disabled. I committed to Del Webb that we would bring this to the floor, so I'd like a motion on that, please.
I'll make a motion that we consider approval of the exemption for taxpayers age 65 or older.
Have a second to that?
I'll second.
Stands here. Questions or discussion from the board? Comments?
Well, I just want to say that you have been heard by me, and that I respect each of you, and you have been coming for months on end, and we appreciate your concern. I know that you know where I stand on this, so I won't say too much more, but I just want you to know that you have been heard, and we do appreciate your attendance for the last few months.
Any other questions, comments? We're going to do this by show of hands. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. All those opposed? 7-0, the motion failed. Item B10E, do we have a motion to approve that board policy, GKD?
I make a motion that we approve 10E, GKD.
Is there a second to that? Ms. Cronsell? Discussion?
I just have a question. How does approving this affect number 22? Or does it at all? No?
Well, if it's mostly state, that clears up that we use those facilities for profit.
Okay. I just didn't want this to pass me by. I didn't want to approve one without having a chance to discuss the other. So how does 10E affect the consideration of 22?
Well, I think Dr. Harrell just shared in policy that as we were working through the facility rental fees and reservations, we were also looking at the current board policies to make sure that we were in line. Some of the practices that were occurring where people were charging perhaps for recitals, swim meets, things like that. So they were charging admission fees, and so this was a piece of the board policy we updated.
So approving this section doesn't necessarily affect? Okay,
not
that's
at
all
all.
I need.
Just gets us aligned.
Thank you.
No further questions on that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Motion carries. Item B22, could I have a motion to approve the approval of new use facilities rental fees?
I'll make a motion to approve the new use of facility rental fees.
A second to that?
I'll second it.
Ms. Kaminsky, discussion, questions?
Mr. President, I'm not sure if this is even the right way to say it, but I'd like to, I guess, table this item. Today, as I was doing some research on the facility rental fees, I ran into a neighboring district that has some different options as far as nonprofit organizations, and they're leasing out their facilities at pennies in comparison to what we're leasing out our facilities. We don't have some of the options that they are offering. I think that if the board had some of that information, they might be able to make a better decision on what they have is a cost recovery. So in other words, that's what they charge nonprofits. I think that would make a difference for some of our nonprofit organizations and how they could use some of our facilities. So for example, a cost recovery for a cafeteria in elementary school at in KDISD is $9 an hour, as opposed to what we are proposing to charge at.
Well, it's been school day or non-school day. It's different.
Let's just say it's a school day, for example.
$50 an hour.
It's $50 an hour. And we're not different, we don't have anything that's differentiating between our nonprofits and our for-profit organizations. Again, my goal here is to make sure that we are facilitating these relationships with the community. We are facilitating these relationships with the kids who are coming through our fine arts programs, our athletics programs, and everything else. So I want to make sure that once we make the decision, we have everything we need to make the decision we need to make. And I understand that we can't give away taxpayer dollars, so we can't do it for free. But I'd like to know how it is that other districts can do it for $9 an hour, and that's their recovery cost, and we're saying our recovery cost is a minimum of $50.
Staff, have any comments to that can clarify this now, or?
I know through the course of this, we've discussed all the various facility rentals with the neighboring districts. In regards to the cost recovery for the nonprofits, the neighboring one, if it's a nonprofit and they can ensure that all the students or whatever in that particular group are zoned to that particular district, there cannot be any outside district kids.
And I understand that, and that's why I would like for us to have something in addition to what we have. Currently, we pass this the way it is, and we don't have anything that would allow these nonprofits to. In our area, for example, we have what's called Fulshire Arts, and currently they're leasing laymen, I believe, for 3 hours a day. At the prices that we're giving out now, it's a nonprofit. A third of their attendees currently are there on scholarship. In other words, they're going there for free. We're going to, and again, it's, the theater, art, they're cultivating what we want to come into our programs eventually.
And actually, we agree with you. There are things like the Fulshire Art Group and other campuses where with GKD Admin Reg, campus principals, if there are programs they would like to sustain after school for 2 hours after dismissal, like this program, under the Admin Reg, there is no charge. And so that they can do this.
But what about during the summertime like now, that they would be assessed at these fees, correct?
Yes.
On Monday through Thursday, which are our summer hours from 7:30 to 5:30, as long as the campus staff is on contract, it would follow the same guidelines as
under the admin
reg.
And where is the, I guess where
would we find that information?
Yeah, where?
I know you talked about that last month, that anything within like the school hour days or when the air is on, if it was all students from our district, there would not be any charge, but do we need to have that spelled out somewhere?
We can provide the admin reg, which we don't normally bring forward with the local policies. But we looked at two things. There was what you're referring to, the nonprofit cost recovery where there's fees assessed, and then there was the other type of program where up to 2 hours after dismissal, when the building is already running, campus principal makes the decision, can assign a site supervisor without a fee. Then each campus can offer programs that support that particular campus and those students' interest. And so what Mr. McKeever referred to, that would continue on through the summer when the air was already running. I'll use an example. This past week, and I won't get the initials right, Mrs. Harper's group, FBLRC, the parent group, they hosted those sessions for all of our students and parents, and it was the day-long sessions last Thursday at George Ranch. There was no charge to them because the building was already running. Dr. Black approved it, and so there have been things that we've been piloting like that, and that's how we really want to support our community groups and give the principals autonomy and athletic director, and I'll let you speak to some of the athletic facilities, to provide the venue for their students to participate in these very types of things. But when it does require time and personnel outside of when that personnel and those facilities are running, that's when the facility fees come into play.
And when we started this process and we're looking at the fees of some of our neighboring districts, we did look at the cost recovery fee that's in that particular district. And it is important to note that there's no staffing charges included in that fee, whereas the fees you see on this first cover page includes that site supervisor. So whereas they may be charging $6 an hour, if a site supervisor is added to that, and I can't quote you their site supervisor charge, whether it's $25 or $30 an hour, that would be in addition to that, I believe. Whereas the charge you're seeing for us is included in that hourly rate. So this is our total charge. But we did look at that in the beginning, and with GKD local, or the admin reg with GKD, we are trying to support and encourage those student programs that benefit our kids, whether it's fine arts, whether it's maybe something we don't even offer, that it's an outside group coming in that's trying to give our students the benefit of an extracurricular program or something that aligns with our curriculum, where our principals can give them the authorization to stay at the building a little bit late, where we're not incurring that added cost, and they can provide the supervision and we can make it available to them 2 hours after dismissal.
So when they go to the website and they're looking for this, will the other admin chart, will that information be there, or just this information if somebody wanted to use the facilities during the school hours?
We haven't really gotten that far, but I think that's absolutely the way that we could structure it. Where
So
if it
that
is,
they see those options?
if it's something that can be done to support our students and they're interested in a particular community, they would need to contact that campus principal. That's going to be their first step. If it's an outside group wanting to come in with a mix of students from a community, not campus specific,
gonna be a different
they're going to do a
ballgame.
facility rental.
Okay, let me, quick question. Then, listening to discussion, do you believe we have adequate policies to address what Ms. Roberts is requesting? It's just not spelled out here, or we are lacking in the concern she has?
I believe GKD as an admin reg was written in an effort to support what she's looking for. We tried to create a situation where we could offer those types of programs the benefit of using our facility in a way that would not cost the district additional resources or funds.
Okay, so her question earlier is, GKD affect this? And you said, no, it doesn't. It sounds like they are linked.
GKD local does not affect this. GKD as an admin regulation does.
Okay, all right.
And I will say that a lot of the outside groups prior to this, they would submit the facility request, and then that's when Mr. McKeever would assess the rental facility, the site supervisor fee, the custodial fee. So lots of times they would see all those fees, and the question was, what is it really going to cost? And that was one of our big efforts, is that in meeting with some of the groups, they want to know, what's our hourly fee? And so that's why it was broken down like this, and so that we can just give them, if you want to use the facility, outside 2 hours of the school day, we're going to have to run the air, we're going to have a site supervisor there, we're going to have a custodian. This is how much it is an hour, so that they can plan accordingly. And if it is an event that they are charging for, they can take that into consideration. And that was the reason for updating GKD local, that they could charge.
All right.
I had someone text me earlier saying that, why is there no difference between renting for practice and renting for a big swim meet? Why is the price still the same?
When we calculated the charges, it was a per hour charge. So that's the charge that it is costing us to have that facility open for that hour, whether you have 300 people there watching 50 kids in 8 lanes swimming, or you have 6 kids swimming in those 8 lanes. We didn't alter it based on, now where the cost could differ would be if we had to provide extra security because it was a large event with that many people there. They would incur those security costs. But as far as the facility goes, we tried to strip it down to the bare bones cost. There's no built-in profit here. There's no administrative fee. This is the hourly cost to use whichever facility you're looking at.
Numbers don't count, it's just what the facility
To turn the lights on,
charges.
to have the
Okay.
facility available, it's this much an hour.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Roberts, are you comfortable?
I'm not comfortable with not seeing all of it in one place. If I had, I think, all of it together, I would feel better about it, but I'm only one.
Can we, we'll go ahead and approve it, and they can do the tidy-up work later to put those pieces together for you. Would that,
That'd be okay.
all right? Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? There are none, the motion carries. And they will put it together to your satisfaction.
Ms. Roberts, did you vote?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yes, I voted for.
Okay.
Yes.
Did Michelle?
I did not see it.
All right, we had two action items we need to go back and visit. Item B4. She's not back yet? All right, let's go ahead and move down to the Citizen Bond Committee. Woo-hoo.
Good evening, everyone. I have Ms. Jennifer Lane here from the Citizens Bond Advisory Committee. You might recall that the committee met for 2 months in April and May, and they have selected Ms. Lane to be their spokesperson for the evening to talk about all of the work that has been going on. So I will turn things over to her, and if you have any questions, I'll be standing by.
Thank you for that introduction. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you. First, as a parent and an alumni, it was a pleasure to serve on this committee. I really appreciated the appointment Dr. Harrell did for me to be on this committee, and I met a lot of parents, made some good friends. There were, as on the slide, 15 trustee appointees, 28 community members, and 8 campus administrators, 10 students. I appreciated our facilitator, was very neutral, Dr. Ken Helvey from Lamar CISD, and so I think that was different this year. I'm not sure. I don't know who the committee chairpersons were in the past, but it was nice to have a neutral person to come in and do that. We also had Veneer, Rice, and Gardner representatives were there, and we did appreciate the presence of our school board members showing up. I think that was something different this year. So, gosh, I'm a little nervous. That's kind of weird.
Take a breath.
I like me.
Well, it's only $400 million.
It's only $400 million. I'll go to the next slide here. Okay. Okay, and our role was to develop a recommendation for a 2017 bond referendum to be transmitted to the Board of Trustees for its consideration. And we did that. The format of the committee was a Delphi technique where we had groups set up, and about at each table was a administrative and employee. So that was very helpful. We all had laptops. We were able to submit our list of items that we wanted to add to the list. So on the first meeting on April 3rd, and I will say, I want to commend the executive team that they did an excellent job with all the research that they did. They provided us with a lot of pictures, like a 70-page slideshow, lots of information. The technology department gave us lists of information that we requested. So they were extremely helpful with giving that. We went through the demographics report. We learned that we're going to double in size in 10 years. We had an update for the 2014 bond, and where those, the status on all of that, and the planning timeline. So it was a lot of information at once, and I will say, as a citizen coming in, it was just a lot of information, a lot of different things to consider. And when we first looked at the number, we were kind of taken back by it, but we understand that we are growing and that we do need to add a high school, a junior high, and 3 elementaries along with the land, and that was about 75% of that number. Through the process of the committee, we created a list. Like I said, we were all at tables and we had laptops. We put all of our lists together, and then it came back to the next meeting where the facilitator, we went through all of those line items. And we discussed all of that in length, and I think people that were appointed, we had a lot of questions. The executive team provided answers to a lot of those questions. They were really very diligent with that, and so that was very helpful. Move to the next slide here. So that was the gist of the first 3 meetings. In May, we were allowed to do some walkthroughs. And with me now being an employee of the district as a substitute, I have also seen a lot of schools as well, so that was helpful. We did a walkthrough of Lamar Athletic Department, the 2 buildings out there. We went up to the press box, me and Kevin McKeever and Dean Lenk. Is that right? How do you say your last name? I went to the Jane Long Gym, and we had a walkthrough at Terry High School. We had a construction owner, Craig Latoul, went with us, another citizen, Belinda Gutierrez, and Aaron Morgan of the maintenance department. We went through a walkthrough over there at Terry. We were allowed to do that, but circumstances of people on the committee being able to go, that was kind of constricting. So that I don't know of anyone else that may have gone on any other tours. I know that there was another parent that went to Terry High School as well. So we had myself on the maroon track and another parent on the purple track paying attention to the red and the blue tracks, which was kind of nice. So we went through all of this, and we did a Survey Monkey where we finalized our list. We all did our survey. We came back. We all voted. We went through all the line items. And I believe you have a copy of that list with you. I think you've got a whole binder with you. And on that list, there was a few things that I wanted to bring to your attention. Where is it in blue? Okay. Okay, so it's color-coded. All of the items that were submitted to us, of course, as a regular citizen, we don't know because we don't see what is needed at these schools. So if you say you need carpet and vinyl, we're going to go off of the recommendations of the executive team. So, and when you talk about pricing of these items, we're going off of course, their recommendations. So if we're not a professional carpet installer or a roofer, we would not know, what those numbers would be. But we definitely went through the list. We finalized the list, coming to a conclusion of what we thought as citizens what was needed for the school district. And with the numbers, we were assured by Dr. Randall that we always want to come in under budget, and we would be getting estimates for these numbers, several different estimates to make sure that we would come in under budget from these estimates. So I think that was when we got to the last meeting, when we finally finalized the list of information and we saw that number of $440 million, it was like, whoa, that's a big number. And although we had talked about, a stadium, additionally to the 440, a stadium would be another 50 or 70 million. I know that's a big thing with the kids and the parents that they're wanting another stadium. We also talked about a CTE center. That was brought up. And we just thought at this point in time, with our growth, that it was more important to get that school for the new high school and the junior high to address that first, and maybe do a stadium in a different bond referendum. So on your sheet here, on the blue items that were listed were some of the things that we submitted as well, in addition to the original list. And one of the major points that I wanted to make was, as an alumni of Terry High School, and we had some alumni of Lamar as well, we wanted to make sure as we move forward as a district and we respond to the growth of our area, that we also pay attention to those older schools. And even though if we can't make it exactly equitable, but at least to meet the needs of those kids, of all kids, excuse me. And I personally submitted a list for Terry, and we've got that number down to 3 million from 20 million. And so we did our due diligence with that, I think, with discussing all of these items and going through them very thoroughly to make sure that those schools were also included in with this bond referendum. Are there any other questions at this time on this?
I have a question. In the original proposal, there were, I believe, some orchestra rooms that were removed. Can you tell us a little bit about why the committee decided to take those out of the bond?
Yes. Okay. So as we were going through looking at like Terry and Lamar and comparing their music facilities, their arts facilities compared to the newer schools, we thought it was more important to expand upon the band halls and the choir rooms first, the existing fine arts programs that were already in place. That we thought that was more important to do that before we went ahead and added on orchestra rooms. We're not saying that an orchestra program is, we definitely want to offer that for the kids, but we try to think about how to prioritize that and to expand upon our existing programs with our current band and choir.
So does that mean that you felt like two of our schools don't adequately meet the needs of those kids for those programs?
Yes, the Terry Band Hall is 2,600 square feet, and they're adding on a 1,500 or 1,200 square foot addition to that. Compared to George Ranch is a 4,000 square foot band hall. And inside there is a lot of percussion equipment. It's very cramped. Of course, there could be, maybe a little bit reorganization of supplies, but we felt like we could do better to expand that first before we would add on orchestra rooms. We thought that was of higher importance.
But the orchestra rooms are for the middle schools, not for the high schools.
Correct. So is there, I guess I haven't seen that, is there an additional, another renovation that is being proposed for Terry High School's band?
Yes, it was added on here. It was for sorry.
So on top of what we're completing now, there's an additional?
Right.
Yes.
Yes, it's under finance.
I think it was I think the total expansion was going to be to 4,500 square feet for Terry High School. So when we were discussing, the fine arts program, we were trying to think, well, before we go ahead and move forward in doing orchestra rooms, okay, well, how many kids at the different schools are in orchestra? So you're looking at, I think the majority of those are going to be on the on the maroon track.
Do we have a number of what, I'm sure it's in here somewhere, of what the orchestra rooms cost?
Yeah, it's
Do
a
you
very
remember?
nice program. It's 5.5.
That's $5.5 million.
Okay.
And do we have a number of kids that are in that program yet? Because they're already in programs right now, right?
So I guess what I'm thinking about is when we attended all of those musicals, those theater and productions, and at the majority of them, most of the kids who were playing the music, the background music, were all orchestra kids. And my concern is that if we're not cultivating this in the 6th grade, you know, it's kind of like going back to back in 2008 when the recession really hit, and you know, we were one of the few districts that did not cut back on our programs. We did not cut back on our teachers for fine arts, things like that. And we are seeing the results now. So many of our students are getting awards and accolades for so many of their things. And so I think about that in comparison to what we're providing our kids. And so I'm sad that they removed it, perhaps.
We discussed it quite a bit, and I don't think it was anything against the fine art, the program in particular.
Just to address a couple of questions, they did ask staff several questions about that, and the response from the Fine Arts Department was that we were anticipating 220 students next school year in the orchestra program, and not to speak for the committee, but my belief was is that they were very much in support of continuing the path of having orchestra, but they did vote 2 times, and the majority of the committee was not interested in spending the $5.5 million at the early stages of the program.
Now we're still up just for discussion now. We'll be able to debate this as a board when we come up for approval. If we decide to put that back in, it can be put back in, or if we decide to take something else out, we can do that. So
I'm just trying to get an idea of what the board, or what the committee was thinking, or what their.
They thought a lot.
Oh, I can imagine. They thought a lot about a lot of things.
I just do want to say, if you're okay, that I attended all but one of them, and everyone worked so very hard, and I do want to thank you and everyone that was there. They asked very insightful questions, and I think that it was a huge undertaking. And one of the meetings went for 3 hours till 10 p.m. So, I mean, you kind of start seeing.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt.
Seeing spots when
and
you're.
I hope Miss Lane knows how much I appreciate her. I try to tell her as often as I can.
Well, I think it was just, okay, we're looking at the numbers.
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
we want to make sure that this passes with the voters. So we're going through it, and okay, do we really need this? Do we really need that? And it was really hard to cut things out, because if we're sitting there and listening to the executive team telling us, well, this is what we need. This is, you know, we're sure this is what we need. We really grilled them. I mean, we really did. And every time, you know, they would come back and say, yes, this is absolutely necessary. This is what we need. And, you know, how are we to say no as a citizen who's not, you know, in it every day and seeing it every day? So, you know, and the things that we added when it was presented to us at $396 million, we added on another $40 million to that. The majority of that was addressing some of these things that, you know, of some of our older campuses.
But like the district's original list, their original list was much longer as well. So during the exercises, they cut their list down to the extra $40+ million compared, as she mentioned earlier, there's some other big tickets and items in there. There were several $100 million more that they started with as well. So I commend the committee for the work that you did. I think the people in district saw this as the most active committee that has ever been seated. So congratulations to you, and well done for your all the work you put in.
Well, I just had a couple of challenges, I guess, for the board, and that is after you get your audit done and looking over your business operations, your processes, maybe that will help, you know, better with planning on how to do these things with your operating budget. And also, I've noticed there's some other districts that have like their budget on their website. Maybe to help to inform the voter, they could go to the website. I think Lamar CISD has like an award from the Texas Comptroller for transparency, where you can go there and you can access the budget. So when we go into meetings like this for a bond committee, that we can go and directly look at that. So when we come up with questions like, well, can you not take care of carpet and refrigerators in the operating budget? Does this have to go into a bond? That would help address some of those questions. So that would be some of my recommendations on that.
Again, thank you very much. Appreciate all your work.
Thank you.
I would say quickly that I did notice a couple of folks from the committee, so I did just want to recognize you for being here and say thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get to the exciting budget workshop, let's go back and pick up the two open items that we have. Item B4.
I
Number
wanted to try to make this last meeting as memorable as possible. So.
You lead us?
Okay, this answers my question on both.
Okay, great. Did anyone have any specific questions on the pricing?
I don't B4, any other questions?
No.
If not, we have a motion on the floor, and we have it seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, there are none, motion carries. Item B5, we have a motion and a second on the table for approval of fire extinguisher and fire suppression system services and replacement equipment. Any more questions? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Apologize for that.
Mr. President, I also want to mention that Michelle is going to be leaving us and headed up north, way up north.
What is the matter with you,
She
lady?
is,
How north
she
is
is
north?
going back to, I think, her husband's hometown area, and I want to publicly say thank you to Michelle
Thank
for
you.
all of her hard work. The
Thank
one
you.
thing that we can truthfully say that when she does something, it's taken care of without any question at all. So
Thank you.
Michelle,
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to serve you. Thank you.
Own yourself before you.
And with that, we will move on to our next information item, the budget workshop.
Good evening. As you can see, of course, this is workshop one for the 2017-18 budget. I'm hoping to cover everything fairly succinctly, but hit the details that you need to know. First of all, our agenda, we're going to talk about different types of revenue, projected totals for revenues and expenditures, a little bit on the legislative update, and of course, the building blocks that make up our budget. First of all, there's three budgets that require board approval. Those are the general fund, debt service fund, and food service fund. Beginning with the general fund, first of all, I did want to mention as far as legislatively, of course, we all know that the session has ended and school districts didn't get any new funding per se, other than some increases in the Tier 2 yields and some items like that, but they will be going into special session in July. All right, so in the general fund, we have three categories of revenue. First of all, local revenue, which property taxes make up the biggest portion of that. Our M&O tax rate, which funds that, is at $1.04 roughly, and we're capped at $1.04. There are 13 cents or up to 13 cents available, but we would require board approval for that through a tax ratification election, which is referred to as a TRE. State revenue grows with enrollment, of course, attendance, and local tax effort. And that's how we gain additional funds there. We have federal revenue that's reported in the general fund, but it's usually less than 1% of total revenues. Property value growth is becoming more important to the district with respect to our funding formula. As values grow, local taxpayers pay a greater share of the combined state and local revenue that make up education funding in the state. And as local taxes increase, the state's portion of education funding decreases. Property values and taxes are both part of the funding formula. We are actually a Chapter 41 district, even though we aren't in the recapture portion of Chapter 41, but that indicates that we have high property wealth. Our current year levy is estimated based on preliminary values that we've received from the Fort Bend Central Appraisal District. I've been working with Glenn, the chief appraiser, for the last few months and have gotten several updates on values. They are adjusted for those properties that are under protest currently. We apply a 98.5% collection rate to the levy that we project. And then there's also delinquent taxes and penalties and interest added that make up our total tax revenues. Other revenues in the general fund include investment earnings, donations, facility rental proceeds, athletic revenue, and other miscellaneous revenue. We're projecting a total of $161.514 million in local revenues for 17-18, right at 62% of the total revenue budget. Based on a June 11th report, property values are estimated to be up about 6.5% over the 2016 certified values, which were the values in August of last year. We have not, in the reports that I've seen, we have not hit 8% yet this year. And the 6.5% growth should grow, as I'll discuss later in this slide. In the last 4 or 5 years, we've had as little as 4.03% growth and as much as 11.43% growth in 2015. What we do, as I said before, is work with the appraisal district to project values. There's approximately $4.4 billion in property value right now under protest, and we're using 92% of those values. And 100% of the ARB approved values. Values are determined by the CAD, and they're reviewed by the state comptroller's office, and they have to be within a prescribed range because they're used in the funding formula, and the state will put the CAD and the districts in a grace period if the values don't meet certain guidelines. Preliminary net taxable values adjusted for over 65 and disabled freeze values total $14.323 billion. We're using $13.973 billion for budgeting at this point. Current year taxes are estimated at $156.485 million for the general fund only. Values will be updated at each workshop, of course, and they should be certified toward the end of July. Our delinquent tax collections are estimated at $1.6 million, penalty and interest at $900,000, for total taxes of right at $159 million. This is how the tax levy is calculated. If you look to the right, the $13.973 billion in value are applied the $1.04 divided by $100 per $100 valuation. To get a preliminary levy of $145.325 million, and that is based on our net taxable values. Then we add the freeze levy to it, which we've talked a lot lately about freeze ceilings. That is an absolute flat dollar amount, and so those are the taxes, the general fund portion of the freeze taxes, which is $13.543 million. For total taxes of right at $159 million, and then we apply the 98.5% collection rate, and we budget $156.5 million. The largest category of state aid is the foundation school program, and we also get a per capita allotment. TRS on behalf payments of $10.5 million. And then some other miscellaneous grants. So our projected state aid is right at $97 million, or 37.2% of total estimated revenues. And as you'll note, as taxes are going up, the state percentage is going down. So we've gone from 39.5 to 37.2 million. Federal revenues compose less than 1% of our general fund budget. The projected total is $2,425,000. That's made up of indirect cost reimbursements and our SHARS and Medicaid reimbursements. Here's a snapshot of the entire budget. You'll see the first few items are the detailed line items for local revenue, and that totals right at $161.5 million. The middle section is going to be your state aid, and that's right at the $97 million, and then the $2.4 million of federal at the bottom, for a total of $260,932,000, roughly to $932,000. The next couple slides discuss our budget process. Right now, we have distributed per pupil allocations and various allotments to the campuses and departments. They've keyed their information in, and we've done reconciliations and things like that. And we have the first pass budget for your review. In June and July, we start refining revenue estimates and various allocations that are based on student counts and things like that. And then in August, we do our final review, we do our truth in taxation publications, and then you adopt the budget and the tax rate. These are the building blocks of our expenditure budget. As you know, about 84% of the general fund budget relates to personnel and benefit costs. We also manage that centrally, as well as our health and workers' comp plans, which are both self-funded. As you'll see there, our basic allotment per student at the high school level is $110. Junior high is $90 per student, middle schools is $80, and elementary schools are $70. We have a list there of amounts that we provide to the campuses that are above and beyond the per student allocations. Some of the big ones are the copier and printer allocations, student travel allocations, band repair amounts, and then some supplemental funding for comp ed, gifted and talented, special education, bilingual, all those type programs. Covering the big ticket items, salaries at $188.12 million. Of course, that number is subject to change. We are providing or recommending a $3 million amount toward employee salary increases. That's an average of 3.5% for teachers and 3% of midpoint for everyone that's paid on the midpoint tables. Our benefits and allowances are at $34.5 million. Utilities a little over $8 million. Fuel for our buses and other vehicles a little over $1 million. Technology of a little over $4 million. Property casualty insurance of about $1.4 million. Your CAD appraisal fees and the county's tax collection fees total about $1.5 million. And then we have almost $500,000 in new classroom startup for next year. And here's how the total general fund budget breaks down, with right at $223 million of the $265 million in payroll and benefit costs. And here's the snapshot of where we stand today. Estimated revenues of roughly $261 million, and estimated expenditures a little over $265 million. And so we're showing a $4 million deficit, but we are committed to bringing you a balanced budget in August. We have some ideas, and of course, one of them is value growth. We expect some of the additional values under protest to come back and provide additional property tax revenue. Moving on to debt service. That's a busy screen. Our revenue sources, our revenues will be provided of $54.336 million, with $52.7 million in taxes, of course. That's the biggest component. And then there's some state aid hold harmless that's related to the homestead exemption increase from 2015. We'll get a little over $1 million for that. On the right-hand side, you'll see basically the same calculation as you saw for the general fund. taking the 13.97 billion in values and applying the 35-cent tax rate, and then adding the frozen taxes that apply to the INS fund only, which is right at 4.6 million, and then applying the 98.5% collection rate, and that brings you to your $52.66 million tax estimate. Our expenditures are budgeted at a little bit above $52 million, with all but $87,500 of it being your principal and interest payments on outstanding bonds. And as I said before, we're still looking at a flat tax rate of 35 cents per hundred based on values. Again, we are looking at a flat tax rate of $1.04 for M&O, and interest and sinking at 35. In August, we've got to calculate the rollback tax rate and the effective tax rate. And on August 1st, that will be the meeting where you vote to on the rate that we're going to publish in all of our notices, and also vote on the meeting date where you consider the budget and the tax rate. Moving on to child nutrition, it is a balanced budget as well, $14.1 million for next year. Revenues come from breakfast and lunch sales and also federal reimbursements. And of course, you see the 4 categories of cost, and the detail behind that is here. You'll see that $6.6 million is payroll and benefits, and then supplies and materials are another $7 million, which are the 2 biggest components. And supplies and materials, of course, are paper goods, food, and various things like that. So, with that, that's a snapshot of your 3 budgets. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Ms. Ludwig, just to clarify, in the first section you said something about, did I understand it when you said that as our tax rate goes up, or our values, on our property values go up, the state gives us less aid, is that correct?
Yes. In the funding formula, our values lag a year. So in the 17-18 state aid calculation, they use the 2016 values. So, of course, they're going to be larger than the 15 values. And the local effort portion is subtracted out of your total Tier 1 allocation. And so, of course, as that number gets bigger, the state piece gets smaller.
So while it may look like the values of properties are going up, that doesn't necessarily mean that
total revenue
is increasing. The other question is, after last year's flood with that $4 million that we had to adjust for those property values, what kind of ramifications are we seeing today? Do you have any idea?
I have not deducted any tax effort based on the flood reappraisals from the 2017-18 because at this point, in the last 3 weeks, we've finally gotten supplements that actually have the reductions in them. So we're on supplement 13 right now, and supplement 11, 12, and 13 started reflecting those reductions, and they weren't near as high as we thought they were going to be. I'm thinking there's probably another chunk coming because they're not finished making those adjustments yet. But anyway, and if the next adjustments get more significant, then I'm probably going to discount some of this and reduce some of our tax budgets.
Okay.
It was a very long process for the CAD to go out and reevaluate all that, and they're just getting it all through all
and
their systems.
And I know you said that it was going to affect us for several years.
Right.
Not all at once.
Right.
Maybe it's good.
What are the major wild cards still to come out of Austin that give you the most concern?
Well, I've heard from probably 3 different sources already that there will be a mandated raise for teachers, but it's unfunded. So what we've already got in here would cover some of that, most of that.
You understand statewide, that's about $1 billion impact.
Yes, that's what I've seen too. $1 billion
school
unfunded
districts.
mandate.
Was there something about trying to get all school buses with seatbelts? Did they vote that down, or is that? Because they were trying to push that through too.
I had heard about that too, but I think that failed.
That failed.
I think it did.
Failed.
That's your biggest worry card, still to come out of Austin?
It's the $1,000.
They've done enough already?
I think so.
They've done
Well, and the thing is that they were going to raise the basic allotment, just, a little bit, and it was going to produce about $3 million for us. It would have balanced our budget. But that failed too.
Yeah, the House was helpful, the Senate was not.
Yeah.
And right now, we're not part of recapture, but we are.
We're in the gap.
But the gap is closing.
We're on the low end,
Okay.
so we've got several years
Okay.
before we're impacted.
Okay.
Unless they change the rules.
As long as students are growing.
Ms. Hack, I have a question for you. I know that last year you took on an initiative for the secondary schools to really push for to get the message out there about our students and what periods of the day were more important to attend, like if they were going to be absent for a doctor's appointment.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go? Was that successful, do you feel? Did that help?
I do. I think we did several things this year to address that. It was critical that they're there during our mandatory ADA period, which
Right.
is second period, 9:30, where we
Second.
capture all that. And I think we went the route through our athletics and fine arts. That's where the kids really hear it. You need to be in school for at least half the day in order to participate, even though that really isn't required. But if we enforce that we want you in those seats if you're going to represent LCISD that day. We did that, making sure that there's a way in Skyward to run reports before we dismiss from second period, and it's automatically sent to you, and it'll show you the unreported teachers. And then you can follow up with them and make sure that they're locking that attendance every day. So we put several things in place for that.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you for the hard work. Never ending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And don't you go anywhere.
Right.
All right, on the information items, does the board have any questions on any of those items, rather than going through them individually?
I have a question for Mr. Jones, just wondering how we are looking for August.
Did I see 2 thumbs up?
I saw 2 thumbs up, but.
Yeah, get closer, don't
Should we all wear signs?
We're still facing the same problem that we've had. It got better for a while, and then it's kind of gotten, we've taken a downturn again, and that's with the licensing with DPS. We're back after the first of the year. The time that it was taking us to schedule a test with DPS dropped. We had gone out to about 3 months, and that dropped after they made some changes. We were able to schedule tests 4 to 6 weeks out, and we're back up now over 2 months. So they have approved the process. They're not there yet with it where we can do what they call third-party testing, where we can arrange to have our own tester within the district. The person that actually does the tests for that would be our third-party tester. Their only restriction is that they cannot be the person who trains the drivers. So we're looking forward to getting something like that going.
When does that take effect? Is it in effect now?
They're still kind of massaging out some of the details for that now, but.
So we certify someone?
We certify someone to act as a
district.
third-party tester, that they won't work for DPS, but they can test our own drivers.
Can they work, do they work within the district?
They can work within the district, but they
train.
can't be the person, like Johnny McDougal is our trainer. And he cannot be the person who actually does the testing, but we can designate someone else to do that. So that's our biggest.
So what do you
concern.
lose these drivers while they're waiting to take the test, or you just can't get them in your in the role? I mean,
What we do
rotation,
with those
or-
folks, they're actually, as their trainees, once they finish the classroom portion, they're hired as trainees, and we use them as aides on buses. We used to also use them, we have a lot of routes that we run that some are contracted out with a company called ALC, that we have some of our homeless, displaced kids. We finished up the year with 258 of those that we're transporting. And we have.
By the way, that's amazing that y'all go get those kids. I've heard about that.
We go up near downtown Houston to pick up some of them. But we use them in that capacity. We put them in vans and cars and use them to go get those kids, one or two at a time. We use them that way.
That's stuff people want to hear about.
Are we still staying competitive with other districts?
So far, I think we're doing well. It's just trying to get them in here and get them trained and get that license.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Any other questions from the board? If not, do we have any future agenda items you'd like to have considered?
We don't need to, we don't need closed session.
All right, upcoming meetings and events, we'll see this board in San Antonio tomorrow evening.
And good luck to Dr. Randall and who else is going to?
Holsworth.
Holsworth.
Several staff out here.
Great leadership team.
Y'all are going to Lost Pines first?
Lost Pines on Sunday evening. So the ones that don't see in San Antonio, we'll see in. All right, nothing else to bring forward the board. This meeting is adjourned at 8:51. Thank you.